Initially pipelined 21 months ago and revealed 15 months ago, it felt like this figure would never release. I think this is the longest we've ever had to wait for a Black Series figure, but finally Ki-Adi-Mundi is here with some of the sickest box art that we've ever seen in a Black Series figure. Number 4 in the Attack of the Clones line of mural packaging. This is right up my alley. This is a prequel figure, it's a Jedi, it's an alien, it's a brand new sculpt, it's got modern articulation, it's got everything I could ask for in a Black Series figure. You know, collecting these things, a lot of the time you get characters and figures that you're just not that stoked about, even if they're nice figures. This just is one of those rare occasions where it's one that I'm actually very stoked on. The good news is I don't think that I have much to complain about with this figure. I think everything is done as well as it could be given the limits of the technology, and I just think this looks flawless, honestly. And of course there are like complaints that could apply to any Black Series figure. It would be cool to see more accessories, more alternate hands, force hands, that sort of thing, but as far as this goes and what we have kind of come to expect from the Black Series, I think this is perfect. We've cleaned up the joints on the elbows, and you can see how deep that cut goes, and it allows for really impressive articulation at the elbow. I think this is some of the best that we've seen from a single joint here, and then we do have butterfly joints hidden underneath the shoulders there. It's enough to get both hands almost touching his face, which is pretty rare. But what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? Taking a look at the clothes here, we have this really soft overlay on top, as we're kind of used to seeing now, and then we have the skirt here, and this is attached to the belt, and then there's a separate beige tunic underneath, but there is no tunic on the back side, but you really can't see that from most angles. It would have made it a little bit bulky in the back. Looking at the legs here, we do have a boot. There's no paint on it here, but there is a separate swivel. The knee swivels as well as the boot itself, and then we actually do have a thigh cut under the leg here. I don't know if this is just because this figure was designed like 2 years ago, or if because it's under the skirt, they figured they can just kind of add that articulation there. And then at the knees you have more bend than you would ever really need in a standard Jedi pose. And like we first saw with Nayland Cheel, and I've seen on a couple other figures since, this does have the ball joints, which is weird. It's that this was kind of designed around that same era as the Nayland Cheel, just going off the timeline here. So I wonder if these like ball jointed wrists were something that they were trying out and kind of abandoned, because we haven't seen that many figures since with it. A few of the Ahsoka figures did have them. It'll be interesting to see moving forward which figures have this articulation and which don't. I personally like it, and these are nice and tight. I felt like with Nayland Cheel they tended to pop off a bit unintentionally, same with the Indiana Jones figures, but here they are nice and snug, and it took a little bit of pressure to get them off. Now his lightsaber is a little bit less than exciting. I'm not sure if we've seen this sculpt before. It kind of reminds me of the ones that came with General Grievous or maybe Kit Fisto. We do see the updated pegs here like we've seen on a lot of the newer figures that just give it a little bit more stability, less likely to break on a shelf. And this does peg in really nice and tight on the belt, but it wasn't really difficult to get in there. Some figures, you know, it pops out really easily. This feels like the perfect fit, but displaying your Jedi with their lightsabers unignited feels kind of boring. Similar to Plo Koon and Kit Fisto, he has this slightly open hand here on the left side, so he can still hold a lightsaber with both fingers, but then also has some sort of kind of like a force effect. And just to show off the stability of the lightsaber peg, the wrist peg, the grip strength, if we could just spin him around there and support him just by the lightsaber, although I don't recommend doing that because there is really no reason to. And this is kind of my boring like standard Jedi pose that I usually end up putting my figures in with a slight force push, but you can see here with the open hand it looks quite nice. I also had no trouble getting him into a two-handed lightsaber pose, which is always nice to see. Those butterfly joints work great, and the tunic is just soft enough to move out of the way. I also tried getting him into the pose like we see on the box, and technically it works. It just looks a little silly, and it's going to be a little lopsided just because of the nature of the hands, and that, you know, the elbows are going to have to be in different positions. Kind of looks a little lopsided, but he's looking a little bit lonely here, so let's see how he looks with some other Black Series alien Jedi like Plo Koon and Aayla Secura, just to give you a little bit of a height reference here. This was a guy in a costume in the movie, so here he is next to Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he looks pretty nicely scaled next to the humans. And I wanted to show off my custom Coleman Trevor that I made using a Mace Windu body and a head and hands kit from Scoticus Customs, but there's something just so satisfying about having all of the alien Jedi together. And he was feeling just a little bit shiny, so I went outside with my Mr. Super Clear matte spray, being careful not to be downwind or inhale any of this stuff because that is no good, but just a couple quick passes should do it. It's just a subtle difference, but I think it just kind of took down a little bit more of that shine and made his skin texture look a little bit more natural. I am thrilled with this figure. If you couldn't tell from the video, if you have this on pre-order or you have been receiving it already, it seems like everyone's kind of getting these around the same time. You have every right to be excited. Let me know in the comments below when you'll be getting yours, or if you are passing on this for some reason, please let me know why. I'm very curious to hear. As always, thank you all for watching. Here are some other videos you might enjoy, and I will see you all next time.